District 5 first. And the election is to fill a vacancy for a one-year term. And the candidates are Krista Harris and Sue Means. No Democrat filed for this position. District 5 includes the communities of Bethel Park, Ridgeville, Mount Lebanon, and Upper St. Clair. And you, the public, have a chance to submit questions. If you need more cards, holler, somebody will get them to you. Excuse me. And we ask that you refrain from any applause until the end of the evening, okay, so that we get as much time as we can with the candidates. So each of you have an opportunity for a 1.5-minute opening statement, and alphabetically, which is the way I arranged it. Krista, you get to go first.
All right, well, thank you so much, Annette, and thank you to the League for organizing this event this evening. Thank you, Sue, for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation about important issues in our region. Again, my name is Krista Harris. I am the County Councilwoman who was recently appointed 2 months ago to fill the vacancy. I am a Mount Lebanon resident, and I'm a new mom. My daughter Abigail is here with us tonight. I'm also a volunteer through the Junior League of Pittsburgh. I am running because I believe that I had the opportunity to come to Pittsburgh and I got to choose where I wanted to live and where we were going to raise our family. And I chose the South Hills. And because of that, I feel indebted to the community. I chose here because of all of the great opportunities it afforded me and the great quality of life we have. So because of that, I feel indebted to the community and I want to see it grow and prosper. A couple of things that are important to do that. One, our county needs to learn to live within its means. I want to be a voice of fiscal responsibility and make sure our county knows that it's our tax dollars and we need to use them wisely and efficiently. Two, we need to be able to grow our county business, our businesses in the county. To do that, I want to keep our taxes low and fair. And lastly, I think our quality of life is great, and part of that is our county parks. I want to make sure that our parks are maintained and revitalized even. So thank you so much for the time, and I look forward to our conversations.
And, okay, Mayor, and I apologize, I did it again. The timer's sitting in the first row, and she will give a warning 15 seconds before your time is up, and then the red card, stop card.
Okay.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
So it's your turn.
Well, hi, I'm Sue Means, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters also for having us here to speak tonight, and for Kristen for coming and this chance for us to discuss important issues. I was born and raised in Bethel Park. I raised my 5 children here. I want the county to prosper and grow. Anyone can say they're conservative, but I have 28 years of experience. I have a proven record of fighting. I have been a tireless advocate for government reform. At the core of my being, I believe that government's too big, government spends too much money, and government does not have enough oversight. I'm running for county council because there's a serious lack in leadership in our county. Our county is in serious debt, and the county controller has said that we are overassessed by $500,000, and yet no one is talking about it. Our county residents pay enough taxes. I want to make sure that I want to make it my business to watch over your tax dollars like the money was coming out of my own pocket.
Okay, let's go to the first question, and actually I'm going to put 2 together. What is your position on the airport? I'm sorry, Sue, you will go first on this one. What is your position on the airport? And a related question, what would you do to better utilize Pittsburgh International Airport? How would you pay for it, and can it be profitable?
Well, we really need to make sure that we get more business into the airport. It's very sad when you go there and you don't see very many people coming and going. That we just really need to encourage it. We have an international city and international business, so we really need to take a good look at what we can do to get more business into the airport.
Okay. That's it. Okay, Krista.
You know, my family lives outside of Philadelphia. So I experienced firsthand what happened when Southwest left their regional flights our flights between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh really skyrocketed. I think that we have great opportunity with our airport. One of the important things that we need to do is first pay down our airport debt. I think that is priority number one. The second priority that we have at our airport is we need to lower our gate fee. That way we can lower our cost per flight ticket. I feel the best way that we can do that is by encouraging other businesses to come to Allegheny County, come to Pittsburgh, and grow here. That will generate demand. People will come, more people will be using the airport, coming in and out. So again, the best way to bring companies here is to keep our taxes low. So I feel that, you know, our airport is a great asset that we have, and we need to make sure that it is utilized well.
Okay. Krista, do you support the drilling for gas at the Pittsburgh airport, and would you support drilling in other areas of Allegheny County, including the parks?
Well, first off, the first part of that question is the airport and the drilling that's happening there. And yes, if I was on council at the time, I would have supported that. I believe that was a great opportunity for the county and the airport to again pay down their airport debt, help us revitalize the airport. As far as drilling in the county parks go, I'm a new mom, and I don't really know for certain how I feel about my kids playing right next to a rig. But that doesn't mean to say I've ruled out any possibilities of drilling, of companies utilizing area surrounding the parks, using horizontal drilling to attain the minerals underneath parks, and the county can then utilize the royalties from those minerals. But again, I would want to think very hard and very seriously about the safety, about the residential impact to our area, for, you know, the consideration of drilling in our parks. Thank you.
Sue?
Well, I had some concerns about the deal that the county struck with Consolidated Coal, in that I felt that the county should have gotten more money out of the deal. It looked like corporate welfare, in a sense that the money is going to be used to lower the gate costs. So in a way, we're helping it's like picking and choosing winners, which is never a good idea for conservatives when you pick and choose what businesses you subsidize. I also wish that more of the money would have went to the county. And as far as the county parks, there are vast areas, and there's no need to have a rig nearby play equipment. And it's very safe because they've been drilling for Marcellus Shale for 65 years and drilling in Texas, and it's very safe. And Marcellus Shale industry is our chance, our county's chance, and our state's chance to get out of debt. And Washington County is prospering and growing because of Marcellus Shale, and our county hasn't been as supportive of the idea as. But yeah, I still support local control, so each municipality should decide whether or not they can have drilling in their town or not.
Okay. Next question goes to you, Sue. What is your stand on gun registration and on reporting of stolen guns?
I don't know what you mean by gun registration. You want guns to be registered? When you buy a gun, you fill out a form so they know you have a gun. I totally support the Second Amendment. I think people have the right to bear arms. And I am very leery of the government overseeing and watching citizens defend themselves all the time on a daily basis. And the reason why citizens carry guns is because the police are always 5 minutes away. And we just saw in Bethel Park, if that man, Mr. Arman, I don't know if you're aware or not, but the music store man and his wife were attacked with a man with a club. And he was coming to do them bodily harm. And if he had not had a gun to defend himself, those two lovely elderly people that live in Bethel Park would be dead.
Krista?
I am also a supporter of our Second Amendment rights. I believe in that wholeheartedly. I believe it's a constitutional right. I do believe that individuals and our citizens need to go about obtaining their arms legally, and that involves registration and also reporting. So yes, I mean, as far as guns go, I'm supportive of our right to bear arms.
Okay. Krista, do you believe each community should have the right to say no to fracking?
To fracking.
Yes.
Certainly, each community has their own, has power over their own community, and I feel that's very important to every community and hometown. If a community in the county does decide to have a no drilling, a no fracking regulation, then that's up to them.
Okay. Sue?
I totally support local control.
That's it. Okay. All right. Next one goes to you, Sue, first. What can we do to get more young families to move to our region?
Well, we need to lower taxes. Our taxes in our county are too high. And right now, the county controller has said that we're overassessed by $500,000, and that's $30 million. So no one's talking about it. But our taxes are too high, and you hear all the time, people are moving out of Allegheny County because they're going to move out of the county for lower taxes, and they move into the surrounding areas. And they need jobs, and they'll move here also if we have jobs for them. So we need to encourage business to grow and have a business-friendly environment. And I also think that we should increase the homestead tax. And it would make it easier for homeowners and senior citizens to stay in their home.
Okay. Krista?
I am one of those young families who moved to Pittsburgh. So I understand firsthand what attracted me and what attracts others to the region. I came here because we have great schools, we have a great quality of life, we have a great parks system, and we have transit. Especially here in the South Hills, we are very fortunate to have transportation to get in and out of the city very easily, and that's one of the things that young families are looking for. So I think we definitely need to keep our taxes low and keep them fair. I certainly would not support any increase in our millage rates right now because families want to come here. Again, we need to encourage companies to come and stay here so that young families have jobs and have a family sustaining wage. We need to make sure that our transportation system is maintained, possible future expansion, and also, again, the county does provide our great parks, and that was, again, one of the reasons why I came here. So I do think we have a lot to offer young families. It's just important that we do these things to bring them here.
Okay. And Kristen, unemployment in Pennsylvania currently stands at just under 8%. How would you improve the economy and create jobs?
One of the best ways I think that we can create jobs in our region is by keeping our taxes low, and making sure that our county government is being as wise as is keeping an eye on our county government spending. Companies want to come here and stay here because they have a workforce here. So the workers need to be able to live here. That means keeping our taxes low. They need to be able to get to work. So maintaining our transportation system is important to our companies.
Okay. Sue?
Well, Allegheny County has a spending problem, and it's in debt, and this needs rectified. Our long-term debt is over $90 million, and and our general fund balance is $13 million. It should be $40 million, and we're spending more on our interest than we are paying down our principal and the money we owe. We're not efficient at spending our dollars, and we need to privatize more non-essential services, and that would lower what we spend. And I believe that we should privatize the transit system. It has a third of the employees that they do in the Southeastern transit system, and it has 3 times the retirement debt that it has. It needs to be go through bankruptcy, be reorganized, and I don't understand why people have made the word private a negative thing. People don't realize that grocery stores only have a 1% profit, and I believe that private companies could come in and there would be competition, and they could provide the citizens good transportation, and it could save the people money and save the county money. Because there's just so much money being poured in from the state and the federal government, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then Sue, what is your position on merging the city of Pittsburgh with Allegheny County?
Oh, that's a terrible idea. That is consolidation is actually from the hymn book of liberalism, because let's think about consolidation. Bethel Park does a great job with their snow removal, their fire, their police, and just remember the big snow when we had 23 inches of snow. And at Bethel Park, we had our roads cleared in a day. And in the city of Pittsburgh, they were over a week and they still had snow in their streets. This is just an idea that Fitzgerald wants to have, to take our tax dollars to bail them out, because they're in a lot of trouble. The city and our county are in a great debt, and they want to take our tax dollars to bail them out, and we'll just get substandard services. And our South Hills does a great job providing services, so consolidation is a bad idea. And local control is always the best way for us to give people their services. And it's more freedom also.
Okay, Kristen?
On overall mass consolidation of city and county, at this point, I would certainly not support. However, I am happy to look into services that do make sense to merge together. For instance, we recently merged together the 911 dispatch. The areas that I would look into are areas where it makes sense to consolidate because it would save us money and the services would still be met. Those are my 2 requirements. Other examples of consolidation that might make sense from a bottom up would be purchasing. You know, if the city and the county had to update computer systems, if they wanted to consolidate their purchasing department, that would be something I would look into doing. Or consolidating their park maintenance. We have 12,000 acres of county parks. The city has 5 acres. I believe that, you know, that is something that might make sense to consolidate and save both the city and the county money in doing so.
Okay. And Krista, could you propose your ideal solution to the assessment issue in the county?
As a homeowner, you know, we all went through the reassessment this year. I believe the ideal solution would be a statewide solution where every county has to reassess on the same schedule. Realizing that might not necessarily happen, I don't want to hold my breath on this issue. I do think we should look into reassessing in our own county on a more regular basis, so that our taxpayers can expect their reassessment every 2-5 years. This way people know it's coming, the increments of their change up or down in their reassessment are much smaller, and people aren't being taxed out of their homes. I don't want a situation where our reassessment is holding us back and is hurting our residents.
Okay. Sue?
I think the process needs to be open and transparent. I think that it's wrong that they hire temporary help that's not skilled to do the assessment. I think it should be easier for people to go through the process of the reassessment. It's totally, the way it's set up now is totally unconstitutional. It's not right that some counties have been assessed over and over again and others have not been. I also won't hold my breath to see the state rectify the problem because other parts of the state don't want to leap forward and have their counties assessed when, you know, and come the kind of scrutiny that we have. I would also like to see the homestead exemption increase from $18,000 to $50,000 so that seniors can stay in their home. It just breaks my heart that when I go door to door, I find lovely people who've lived in their homes in Mount Lebanon and they can't afford to stay there because their taxes are too high. But so again, the county has a spending problem and they need to quit spending so much money and do a much better job of efficiently spending the money and using the money wisely.
Thank you. Sue, can you give us an example or some examples of non-essential services to be eliminated?
Eliminated?
Eliminated.
I would say to privatize things like the transit system because it really, like I said, the state, the federal government, the county just pours money into them and it's so inefficiently run. Private is good. Private is competition. And the bottom line is whenever government does something, they don't have to make it break even. If they're inefficient, then they just come back to the taxpayers and ask for more money. Privatize, I think the jails we have terribly failed in our jail system. There's people committing suicide, there's people that get sick in the jail, there's people that are being abused in the jail system. If we privatize the jail system and they did a bad job, we could fire them and hire someone else. There are students, people being abused at Schumann Center. And again, I think privatize would be much better. Again, they would do a good job, and if they don't do a good job, we fire them.
Thank you.
And our people need to be protected in those facilities, and they need to be treated well, because people are our most greatest resource. And I think all life is precious. And it just grieves me to think that people are abused in our jails or in our juvenile detention centers.
Esther?
I think that, we need to take a very watchful eye on all of our county services. I want to look for any opportunities where we can save money. Look for any instances of waste or of fraud or abuse. All of our county agencies need to be examined and look at where are they spending their money. I'm a fiscal conservative. I want to make sure that we are watching our dollars. So any instances of agencies or authorities that aren't meeting their mark need to be evaluated.
Okay. So, Kristen, what role do you see for the Council of Governments, the COGS, in making our area more cost effective? And what COGS are in your council district?
Well, the COG here is the South Hills COG. That encompasses most of the South Hills region. COGS are great. They offer a lot of opportunity for, like I said before, purchasing together, purchasing of technology, purchasing of services to lower the cost by increasing the quantity. So I think they're a great opportunity, and we should certainly look into where we can expand.
Sure.
I'm willing to look into expanding as long as our local control is not sacrificed. I mean, sometimes when you propose things, it is like it's voluntary, and sometimes it's compulsory. And you really need to look at maintaining local control. And again, our local governments are doing a great job, and they make sure that they're staying in the blue and not in the red. And that's what I think.
Okay. And so, Sue, what is your opinion on the way we provide ambulance service in the county?
Well, I live in the South Hills, and our EMS here does a great job. And To be honest, I don't know where the money comes from that pays for it. I know I pay my dues into the EMS, but as far as I'm happy with the service. But I have to be honest, I need to study it the county-wide because, again, I care about what, as a county council person, I won't just care about the people in the South Hills. I'll care about all the people all over the city. And I am concerned about the size of UPMC gobbling up all the little regional hospitals where the poor people would get their medical services. It's a monopoly that's gone and gobbled up the little hospitals in the poorest parts of our city.
Okay. Jessica?
In the South Hills, we have great services that are provided to us in our townships, in our region. And one of that is our ambulance care, and our emergency service providers are wonderful and great. So I am certainly supportive of all of the work that they do, and I'm happy with where we're going. Again, in the county, we have to look at where we're going as far as other services that we're providing people.
Okay. And Krista, as a cost saver to the county, would you like to turn the county roads over to the local communities to maintain and replace?
Well, we'll see what happens, but I think the more we look at our public works program, we do have some county roads here in the South Hills. I think that whoever can maintain them better should be maintaining them, quite frankly. If the local agencies and the local municipalities can maintain them and they want to, then that's something we should certainly consider.
Why would a local government want to take on an extra burden of taking care of roads? I just think that's a bad idea. And even the thought of it, like who's going to volunteer to take on more responsibility, more roads to maintain? A local government isn't going to do that. I just think it's not a good idea.
Okay. As Pittsburgh is the center of our region, what role do you see for the county to support Pittsburgh as our core city? What's the role of the county?
Is it Krista's turn?
I'm sorry, who did that? Oh, no, it's Sue, you start.
What do I see as the county's role? I think the county has to learn to live within its means, and it does need to provide essential goods and services to the people. Again, it's so essential. Our taxes are just too high. People don't come here, people don't stay here. Combined with our states, right, all our Pennsylvania has the highest corporate income tax in the whole United States. We discourage businesses from coming here. So somehow we need to work to live within our means, to tighten our belt, and to cut taxes so that we can encourage people to come and live here and encourage businesses to come here. And we can't encourage corporate welfare. That's wrong, how we'll go and we'll give certain businesses a tax break to encourage them to come here. We pick winners and losers that way, and that's wrong.
Okay, Krista?
Pittsburgh is a great city, and in the South Hills we have great access to the city. As far as the county's role in promoting it, there's a lot that we can do to encourage people to come and stay here. Again, we can encourage businesses to move downtown. It doesn't have to be downtown, just to the region. Promoting businesses, keeping our taxes low, and also making sure that as a county, we are also supporting our region and being good stewards and representatives of Pittsburgh to other areas. The more people that we come out and talk about Pittsburgh, the more people who are going to want to move here and stay here, like me.
Okay. I'm curious to know which standing committee of the council you would wish to serve on and why. And the ones that I noted were budget and finance, appointment review, economic development, housing, executive, government reform, health and human services, parks, public safety, public works. Which of those would you be most interested in serving on and why? Krista, you go first.
Well, as a member of County Council, I am already on 3 committees. I'm on Parks, Public Safety, and Government Reform. I'm enjoying all of them. There are a couple of the committees, the Committee of Appointment Review, all of the members are on, so I also participate in that. To continue on, I would certainly like to stay on the Parks Committee and on Government Reform. I think both are very important to our region. I think it's very important in the Government Reform Committee to look at where we can do better in county government. As far as parks go, I've definitely made it clear that I want to make sure that our parks are maintained and revitalized. The best way to do that is to stay on that committee, I think. Another committee that is interesting to me is the Budget and Finance Committee. That's where everything happens. And as a council member, I have had the opportunity to go to these committee meetings, even though I'm not on budget. So I've definitely participated in that process, and I look forward to continuing to do that.
Thank you,
Well,
Sue.
as Krista said, all the members are on appointment review. And there was just recently a terrible scandal in that the county executive was requiring people to be on these commissions and boards to sign an undated letter of resignation. And what is just so distressing about that is Joe Brimmer, who has served as the executive of the Turnpike. Here he was, and all the county council, that's their job, to be the checks and balances, and all except one person approved him to be on the Port Authority. And here, even the county executive wanted to appoint him to be the CEO of the Port Authority, and he was just indicted for the pay-to-play scandal and the Turnpike. And so it's very important who they appoint to these commissions and authorities. And I was really distressed when I read that there were a senator, a state representative, and 3 county council people signed that undated letter of resignation, vowing, showing they pledged their allegiance to the county executive. I'm sorry, going on that too much. Parks, the county parks, I would love to serve on that commission, but I want people to know that they are self-insured, and there are a lot of dilapidated, unsafe buildings on the county parks, and people can get hurt there.
Okay, Sue. All right. Would you like to say more about the committees, Sue?
Oh, yes, I would.
Okay, I'll give you another go at it, and
Okay.
you also,
All
Krista.
right. Well, I have served on the Council of Friends for 3 years on the county park, so I'm very aware of the things that need fixed there, and I would really like to serve on that. And we have a wonderful park system, but to be honest, the money just isn't there to fix it. And I would like to, and Honorado, he had declared a moratorium on tearing down buildings, so I would like to see buildings torn down because they're unsafe and people are going to get hurt there. I would also like to serve on the human services. As a nurse, I'm very concerned about how the people are treated at Schumann Center and also at the hospitals. And I would like to make sure that our people are treated well.
Thank you. Krista, you have something to add?
No, I'm good, thank you.
You're good, all right. Okay, and then I'll let you go first on the next one. To what degree should Allegheny County support community college? What is the role of CCAC in promoting industrial and regional growth?
One of the main factors that, and just in talking with people in businesses, they say that they need more workers here in the region. and they need skilled workers. There's the Allegheny Conference recently told me they have over 29,000 jobs available, but almost all of them require some training or some post-secondary training. So I believe that the role of the community college here is to help provide people with the training that they need to get these jobs that are family sustaining. I think that is a great asset that we have. We need to make sure that it is being run efficiently and effectively. One thing that we can look into is something called stackable education, so that working with the community college so that people can get a degree here and potentially get a certification that they can then build upon. So stack it so that then they could then accumulate training and eventually acquire a degree. So I think we have a great asset in the community college, and I would like to make sure that we're working with our employers to make sure that our workers are getting the training that they need to get family sustaining jobs.
Okay, and Sue?
Well, I think it's really important to have affordable education so that people can get the education that they need. But I'm always very distressed at how our colleges don't seem to make sure that there's jobs for the people going to school there. I think they really need to look at the training that they're going to offer, if it's going to match the job market that's out there. Because it seems like a lot of times our colleges keep cracking out teachers and then there's no jobs for teachers. I also was dismayed to realize that our county controller, I mean, I'm glad she did it, she just did the first assessment in 10 years of our community college. So I think we need to really look at who's watching the cookie jar and making sure that they're doing a good job at managing the money that they have, and that they're training people and giving them the job skills that they need. And I think that there needs to be a good partnership with industry to make sure that they are looking at the jobs that are out there and the type of training that people need. And I am very glad that there is a community college, an affordable way for everyone to get an education.
Okay. And then the next question, Sue, what additional steps do you propose that the county should take to reduce the number of gun shootings and deaths in Allegheny County?
Well, I'm really glad you brought up that question, because that really is a question of not having strong families. And we need to see why there is crime, why families are so broken down, and that is really something that we as a need to figure out how we can make our families stronger, and figure out why people are driven to crime. I mean, this is a moral problem. Drinking and alcohol and drugs are rampant, and the other thing is we really need to make sure that people on welfare get off of welfare and get jobs. A job gives a person self-respect and a sense of purpose. And just think about it. Well, I would go crazy if I sat around my house all the time with nothing to do. And I just think that that's something we need to do, and we really need, and I really think if I was a county council person, and even as my role now, I would encourage the church and civic organizations to reach out to people and help people find that sense of purpose.
Thank you. Kristen?
Violence is a serious issue that I think worries all of us, and as a young family, it is certainly scary to think about, my daughter out there one day. I think what we need to do is, if we can encourage environments, especially education, in our youth, if we can promote an environment where we're getting to our children younger, instilling values in them that matter, letting them know that they matter. And I think there's a lot of opportunities with our youth to encourage them so that we can stop the cycle. I think that's really important. Stop the cycle of violence. And that's what I would like to promote.
Okay. And Krista, What is your position on the Port Authority? Support for mass transit in general, and how can this be done?
The Port Authority has its own issues, certainly, I think. I take the T and I take the bus, both of them, and I have said before that the access to transit is one of the things that drew me to the South Hills. I think it's important that we maintain that access, but the Port Authority has its own host of issues, including their legacy costs. I believe that there is some work that they've done already to address their legacy costs, but there's a lot of work there left to be done. I would certainly promote that we work on their legacy costs and paying them down. I also would like to look at expansion where it makes sense. For example, the opportunity to potentially do bus rapid transit to Oakland is certainly an opportunity that I would want to look at. Something else that I want to look at with our Port Authority is creating a regional system. So we would want to come together with our regional counties surrounding Allegheny and look at an opportunity where we can create a regional authority so that people who are coming in from Westmoreland County and that their buses aren't stopping once they hit Allegheny County line. Another thing that I think is important that we consider is privatizing our Port Authority. It is certainly something that as long as the quality of service is maintained and it doesn't cost the taxpayer as much money, I think it's really important that we look into that.
Well, I think the idea of regionalizing is probably not a good idea, and that I don't think other counties that are doing a good job want to come and join arms with us. And who wants to become a partner with somebody who is in debt and who's done a bad job, and who wants to link up with somebody going down for the third time? They're drowning and they're going down for the third time. And again, like I mentioned before, we have a third the employees as they do in the Southeast in Philadelphia, and 3 times the cost. It just can't be fixed. How much money do you have to pour into the transit system? I mean, we've raised taxes twice. The drink tax was supposed to fix our transit problem. They also have a car rental tax was supposed to fix our transit problem. We have $250,000 a year in subsidies from the state, the county, and the feds, and yet it still's a mess. It just needs to be reorganized and privatized. And people need to understand that privatized is good. Making a profit is good. And we also need to look and see who's in charge of the cookie jar. Who are these people that sit on the Port Authority? And why are they there? Think about this. Why does somebody volunteer to do this great, important job? Why do they do it? They don't get paid. They don't get paid.
Okay, we're running out of time, and I'm up to closing statements. So Sue, you get to go first on the closing statement. Is there something you want us to hear?
Sure. I have a heart of a servant. I have lived in Allegheny County my whole life. I didn't just move here. The people that know me know that I'm honest and hardworking. And for my whole life, I've helped other people. And I want to volunteer to help now. And my whole life, right now, in Allegheny County, the Republicans are outnumbered 4-11. And the only way to bring reform is to shine a light. And for my whole life, I have shown the light on injustice. And I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. I want to shine the light and educate the voters so that the voters can rise up and demand change in our county. If you want honest government, you have to elect an honest person. I have been a leader my whole life long, and my whole life I have helped other people. And when I was in high school, I was a leader at Girl Scout camp, and a young girl came to me and she said, "Please look at my back." It was a strange request from a freshman to a senior, but here she was saying, "Look at my back." And I looked at her back and I saw that her tent mates had written racial slurs with permanent marker all over her back. It still makes me angry today when I think about what happened then. And I rose up and I spoke up against injustice, and that's what I plan to do now. So I hope you will choose me to stand and serve you at County Council.
Thank you. Krista.
Thanks again, Annette, and I really appreciate being here and talking to everyone tonight. As a young mom and as someone who got the opportunity to choose to live here, I am invested in our future. I'm invested in it because of my daughter. I'm invested in it because I believe that we need to do a better job. Doing a better job means keeping our taxes low, keeping them fair, making sure that companies can come here and stay here so that other young people can come live in Allegheny County and enjoy it just as much as I have and as everyone here has enjoyed your region. I believe that we need to work hard, and I want to be a fiscal watchdog for our budget dollars on County Council. So I am here asking for your support, asking for your vote, and I hope to continue to serve you on County Council.
Bethel Park residents have a chance to vote referendum. Next and he's going to talk about it. And your name is, again, Ed Schmidt. Okay. All right?
Good evening. I'm just going to take a couple minutes. For those of you that live in Bethel Park, you've probably seen the signs around the community that say yes. There have been some questions as to what they mean, and that basically is we have a referendum on ballot that is going to change the way we do our business. We are asking the voters to approve a 0.34 millage tax increase, or a new tax, fire tax, to support the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company. For the past 80 plus years, we've managed to survive on donations only. We've not had any monetary taxes given by the municipality to the fire company in that length of time. The unfortunate part is that several years ago, of course, we've always watched how we spend our money, but we were getting less and less of it. There was a time where approximately 40–45% of the residents were donating. We're down to 30%, and it's still dropping. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the residents come and go. A lot of folks move into Bethel Park and don't realize that the fire company is supported with donations, not with tax dollars. And most likely, they came from a community that was supported with tax dollars. So we found ourselves in a dilemma where we cannot continue to operate and pay our bills, basically, without some sort of dedicated support. And unfortunately, we had to come up with some solution. We met with our borough officials several years ago, actually, to discuss how we were going to do this. We've also met with federal, state, county, all the way from the top to the bottom, and looked for other sources of funding as well. Unfortunately, that was unavailable, and they kept turning us back to our local community to do that. So what we're asking, and we'll cut this short because it's only a couple minutes, but what we're asking is the community to vote yes for this referendum. What this will do is this will, number one, solidify the fact that the fire company will continue to operate. It will be funded properly. We do need a new fire station, and that is part of the arrangement also in the fact that we will tear down the fire station we have now, which is hopefully it doesn't fall down before that occurs, and build a new fire station. In addition to that, all of our the expenses associated with running the fire company will also be part of that 0.34 mils. The municipality will control that. We will come to them with our expenditures, and they will approve an audit and so on as they do everything else in the community. The plan B, if we don't get that referendum, unfortunately, we will most likely get to a point where we will run out of funding, and that will probably force the municipality to have to go to possibly a paid fire company, which would then most likely also double the millage as opposed to just a 0.34 mils. We want to remain volunteer. We want to continue providing a professional service to this community at a minimal cost, and we've decided and reviewed and studied different ways of doing it and found that this was the least expensive and the best way of continuing to operate a fire.
Moving on to the 42nd District. This is a special election. This is it. This is not a primary for these people. This is the election. And all registered voters can participate. The 42nd district includes the communities of Mount Lebanon, Dormont, Green Tree, Roslyn Farms, and Thornburg today. That's not correct? Is that the new one or is that the old one? That's the new one, because next time we'll change. Okay, you tell me.
Mount Lebanon, Green Tree, part of Bethel Park, part of Scott Township, all of Thornburg, and all of Roslyn Farms.
Okay,
Dormont's not there yet.
Dormont's not there yet. Okay, it's interesting. Okay, good, good. Now, first correction. All right, we are going to start alphabetically. So George Brown goes first, and you have a minute and a half to make an opening statement, and you know that Larry Fender is going to sit there in front, put her sign up when you've got 15 seconds left.
Okay.
Go.
I'm George Brown. I'm the Libertarian candidate for the 42nd District House race. I was born and raised in Baltimore in a lower middle class family. My parents did not graduate from high school, but they did a great job raising us. They taught us how to stretch the value of a dollar, and they also valued education. I went to Slippery Rock State College, graduated with a computer science degree, met a pretty girl with brown eyes that I asked to marry me, and she foolishly agreed. We moved back to Baltimore. I worked for the National Security Agency, held top secret security clearance for 5 years, and then we decided to move back to Pittsburgh, my wife's hometown, in 1987 to raise a family. That's where I've been ever since. I took a job with Intermec Technologies as a systems engineer in 2004. 2006, I was awarded the North American Systems Engineer of the Year trophy, and I still work for Intermec today. The reason I'm running is I am disillusioned with both Republicans and Democrats. I think we're getting the government we deserve because we continue to vote for the same party apparatchiks over and over again. The only way that's going to change is if we look outside the box and start to look at third-party candidates, including libertarians. And I would invite you to take a good look at my candidacy before you go ahead and just pull the lever. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Miller.
Hi, as noted, I'm Dan Miller. I was born in Connecticut and came here about 11 years ago with my wife. We live in Mount Lebanon with my son, who is 6.5 and goes to Jefferson. I didn't think that was an applause line. I was raised by my mother. My mother and father didn't have the best relationship, and there were some troubles that we had to deal with. I was the first person in my family born on either side of this country. I was the first person in my family to go to college. We've been very blessed to have to fight our way to the middle class, and we're very thankful to have the opportunities here. I joined the Army in 1992, National Guard, blew out an ankle, and that ended my career rather quickly. I believe in national service. It's what I look to do. I joined AmeriCorps for a year, did a bunch of projects, including building for Habitat for Humanity, a bunch of those types of community-based projects. And in 2002, after finishing law school at Catholic University, my wife and I moved here, and we've been living here ever since. I joined the fire department in Mount Lebanon in 2005, and I was elected commissioner, so one term in Mount Lebanon for 4 years. I'm running because I believe there's a problem in Harrisburg. I am not happy with what's going on. I believe we're on the wrong direction there, and I'm hoping to add an active voice into changing course, investment in education, and finding jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Miller.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for this evening, and thank you people for coming. My name is Dan Remley. I've been a resident of South Hills for well over 30 years, and I've been on the school board in Lebanon for 2 terms now. I have also, I was raised by 2 parents who were school teachers, so school board kind of came naturally. Dad was a retired Navy captain as well. I have been a redeveloper of properties. I've taken properties, not that I owned them, but I did the work to renovate them, abate them, lease them back up, return them to the tax rolls, which supports our community. I've also been on the YMCA school or YMCA board of directors and worked on Camp AIM for many years, a camp for special needs children. I have been on the board of the Komen Foundation and founded a miniature golf tournament that has raised well over $200,000 for breast cancer research. I've been on the Economic Development Council in Mount Lebanon as an assignment from the school board. I'm running because I care. I care about Pennsylvania and its people. I care about the business that we have. I want Pennsylvania to become more business competitive and more business friendly. This will bring outside companies in. It will assist us with jobs and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, next question goes first to Dan Noel. Okay. Privatizing the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board is a current hot topic. The LCB dates back to the end of Prohibition and was designed to control access to alcohol consumption. What do you see as the primary issues in this debate, and what solution do you support?
The bill that was passed by the House is a bad bill. Okay, it's a bad bill. And it's bad for a couple of reasons. First off is that it takes $450 million that currently goes into the budget, and in about 3 to 5 years doesn't explain how we're going to match that after the initial licenses are done. It also, of course, was meant to be, from the governor's proposal, something that would help fund education. That was not part of the existing bill. And the worst part about it is that it doesn't have a jobs plan attached to it. So there are several thousand people who work in that system now. They make family-sustaining wages, which is something that's very important to me. They have benefits. We're sitting in an economy where the Governor Corbett has not generated jobs in the state. We continue to have an unemployment rate that's above the national average. The only way we're dropping is because people are dropping out of the workforce in Pennsylvania. So I do think there's clear modernization aspects. I do think that there are things to move down on that path, but unless you're looking to address the job scenario with it, unless you're looking to understand how the budget will be balanced once you go that step, then you have problems. I'm interested to see what the Senate will come up with as ways to fix and improve the system, which clearly is archaic. But this bill that came out of the House is a disaster for Pennsylvania working families.
Dan?
I am a supporter of getting rid of the state stores in the state. I think we have a constitutional objective to educate our children. We do not have a constitutional objective to provide alcohol to our public or citizens. In the issues, the monies from the sale of those licenses, originally it was all to go to education. Now it's supposed to go half education, half roads. I agree there is a potential here for some money, but it's going to be a shortfall. It's going to be 4 years, and that's a concern because at some point we're not going to have those incomes. All that being said, this is a 4-year phased-in program. During that 4 years, we need to do what we can to support the workers from there, to retrain them for other jobs in the state, to provide other areas in the state for them to work, and to provide for them an opportunity, if they so choose, to retire.
George?
We've been talking about privatizing liquor stores since I can remember. It's the same crazy arguments over and over again. I've been in every state in this country except for Alaska. And other than Utah, nobody has anything that comes anywhere close to what we have here. But selling off the liquor stores should be done today. It should have been done yesterday. It's not a new source of revenue for the politicians to spend. When we sell them off, if we make any money out of it, we need to retire some debt. Okay? Let's act like adults and realize that people are going to drink booze. And having state stores to dispense the booze is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. It's got to be changed today, and that's it. no worrying about the union workers. They can find jobs in the private sector because somebody still has to sell the booze. And those guys are experienced guys. They know what good wine is. They can go and work in Walmart or one of these big superstores like they have in South Carolina that I visit frequently. It's crazy. Sell it today, be done with it, let's move on.
Okay, next question goes to Dan Remley first. What are your thoughts about the laws regarding charter and cider school funding?
Well, that's an issue dear to my heart sitting on the school board. Certainly, cyber and charter schools have a place. There are a number of students who do much better there. But charter and cyber schools funding needs to probably be done in a much different calculation. Right now, it's taking from the public schools the amount of tuition, which differs between one school to the next. It could be $15,000 one and $10,000 another. That's their cost. That's what they get paid. The problem is some of them don't have real estate. Some of them don't. Well, none of them have academic or athletic programs. Few of them have fine arts. And the cost to a public school includes all of those aspects. It also includes the pensions. We pay the pensions in a public school. The state reimburses us for half. That's called the double dip in this case because we pay it in the public school, or the community does, and the state reimburses the charter school for the half. Again, one of our schools in the area, I believe it's Penn Hills, is now paying about $8 million a year out of its budget. That's the community paying those taxes so these schools can make a profit, which last year I think was reported at one point $40 million in profit. It's not right.
Okay, George?
I think if we focus narrowly on cyber schools and charter schools, I think we miss the whole point that we're dealing with here. Education funding in Pennsylvania is out of hand. And it's out of hand because of the unholy alliance that exists between Democrat and Republican politicians and the union teachers. This unholy alliance has been going on for a long time. And what happens is you see a growth in the number of people that are working in these schools, yet you see a fall off in the number of students. Nationwide, since 1950, the number of students has increased 96%, the number of teachers has increased 250%, and the number of non-teaching administrators has increased 700%. You say, okay, George, that's nationwide. What about Pennsylvania? Well, here, we've increased the number of staff by 35,000, and we've reduced the number of students by 35,000. So are we really paying to educate children, or are we continuing to propagate this vicious circle of funding that comes from the unions to the politicians? They then come back, give the teachers' unions more money and more pensions so that the money can then get put back into the political coffers.
Thank you. Dan Miller?
I get tired of privatization schemes that are basically funded off the public dime. And then everybody turns around and says, oh, I love the word private, and it's great, except that all the public dollars it's funding into it, and then sit there and complain about, oh, well, look at the results. You know, the funding formula is off. The charter system needs to be amended. Corbett eliminated the charter reimbursement. It's a major problem for school districts. Charters, I believe, do have a positive, some positive aspects that can be brought into it, but unless you are balancing the equation out, and I say funding formula across the spectrum, I would note that my law practice, one of the areas I focus in is in special education law. You want to talk about inequities that's in the system. You want to talk about inequities from district to district. It is massive. And it's going to take a reshaping of priorities. While I would agree perhaps in some aspects of that terminology, the reality of it is that the charter school system right now is not operating in a fair and balanced scenario that doesn't damage public education systems as it is. The governor was wrong to do away with that reimbursement, and it should be changed. Thank you.
Okay. move on to the issue of fracking. And let's see, it goes to George Brown first. Do you believe each community should have the right to say no to fracking?
As a libertarian, yes, I believe that local government governs best. One of the difficulties you will find, fracking is something I know about as an engineer, it is better to have local jurisdictions make those decisions. But what that will do is it will challenge these gas companies, because in order to be able to frack one of these wells, they need to put together a unit of contiguous acreage that is at least 640 acres or thereabouts, and they prefer twice that. So if you allow individual municipalities, for example, to say we're not going to frack, it can become impossible for the municipalities around there to put together a unit that they can drill. Well, that's something we have to consider, because there is a great deal of economic benefit that comes from that. And you're seeing that all throughout this state, and especially in some of the smaller towns, down south and up north. So yes, I would want to allow local jurisdictions to make those decisions, but I would hope that they use reasonableness when they're looking at that, because otherwise they can basically shoot the goose that laid the golden egg here in Pennsylvania.
Dan,
Thank you.
Miller.
The state taking away local control was, in essence, right robbery. It should not have happened, and it's a mistake. I do agree that there are issues that come up when dealing with smaller localities. But I'd also say that I am someone who believes in an all of the above approach in relation to energy. I do believe that there is some great value that can come from exploring and drilling. But I'm very concerned. I'm concerned that the governor has not funded the DEP properly. I'm concerned that the efforts to be sure that things are done safely is being compromised. I'm concerned that we have pools of fracking wastewater that nobody seems to know what to do with, and it's probably not something anybody in this room wants to go swimming in. So I'm concerned about all that in relation to this issue. But clearly in relation to local control, I am a supporter of that. As somebody who's on a local government in the Mount Lebanon Commission, I believe that localities do know best as to what's appropriate for their neighborhoods.
Dan Rimley.
I as well am 100% in agreement with local control. However, I think we need to have a fair and competitive playing field. I think we need to have regulations regarding the drilling, and then local control as to whether they want the drilling there. My biggest concern is at this point we're not accessing the taxability of these wells, and we're not preparing a fund for potential concerns. Nothing is perfect. Nobody knows a lot about this. We've had a lot of engineering for a lot of years. People have done it for several years in Texas, but anything can happen. And I think we need to have a fund potential to cover potential concerns and environmental issues down the road.
Okay, next question goes to Dan Miller first. Okay. This question comes from a local judge of elections. The current registration system and documentation available at each polling place, plus the requirement for signature verification prior to voting. Those of us who work at the polls don't see the system as being racked with fraud. Do you think voter ID is an imperative in Pennsylvania? Are there other reforms to the voting system you see as having a higher priority?
Voter ID law that was passed is not imperative, and it just is not supported by fact. It's not. I do commend the judge of elections and all the volunteers who spend their time down there. It is getting increasingly difficult to find people willing to spend their whole time. Our elections are important. There are laws already on the books, and anybody who commits a voter fraud should be prosecuted to the fullest extent. That already exists. The voter ID was a partisan law. We all know, George and I got up there and didn't realize the mic was on and said, oh, hey, we're going to pass partisan legislation. Partisan legislation on any side, whether it be Democrat or Republican, somebody has to find an example of how that helps the state. it's not good policy. Both sides should back off from those straight partisan legislation efforts. The voter ID law, you said, is it a priority? It is not. I don't believe it's a state priority. It will not be my priority. I do believe, though, that you should modernize ways to make voting and registering more convenient. I do believe there are some online aspects, and if you've gone to the county office here to handle registration issues there, you can tell that they need support on how to make it quicker, easier, and be sure that the rolls are updated. So there are aspects to which we could do to make this better. The voter ID is a partisan distraction. I'm looking for jobs and education, and if you're looking for voter ID, you probably want to vote for somebody else. Thanks.
Dan,
I understand the concerns that brought that about and the bipartisan effort to look at that. I do not agree with voter ID at this point. I don't think it's required, at least in Pittsburgh. Somebody said the other day the most enthusiastic voters in the country are in Philadelphia, where they vote 10 years after they've been buried. That may well be true, and they may need ID there. I don't think we really need to do it here. And actually, you're talking about building the cost into the system. And I believe the estimate was in Allegheny County, there are only 700,000 people that it would affect, or 70,000 people that it would affect. I don't remember the exact number. But I think it's an expense we don't need, and I think people are generally honest, and I think our election officials do a wonderful job making sure that corruption is not brought into their voting polls.
George?
I don't see voter ID as a major problem in the state. I mean, we have a lot of other bigger problems that we need to deal with. But by the same token, I have to have an ID card to drive a car. I have to have an ID to buy cigarettes or a lot of other things that are much less important than my vote. So I think I'm not necessarily in favor of what's been put forward so far, but I don't have a problem with looking at it. And I think if it came up while I was in Harrisburg, it would be something I would seriously take a look at. We don't want to disenfranchise anybody, but I've combed through the voter database in this election process, and I can tell you that there are a lot of mistakes out there. Not necessarily fraud, so to speak, but it could use cleaned up quite a bit. And I think we shouldn't just dismiss it out of hand. We need to take a look at it, do it in a way that's fair to all voters. But, being fair to all voters also means that each of us only gets to vote once. So I think it's something that we should take a look at.
Okay. Dan, the next question goes to you. I'm sorry. The Pennsylvania legislature is one of the largest and most costly in the nation. Would you work on efforts to downsize the size of the legislature, and what's the ideal size?
My immediate answer is absolutely. I am in favor of reducing the size of the state legislature. Initially, I would say at least 20%. That would take 50 House representatives out of there. People believe that's going to save a lot of money. It isn't. It's going to save maybe 15 to 20 million a year, but it will save a lot of time and effort. There are way too many legislators, way too many people with their hands trying to pass out checks to port this or port that. The legislature needs to be reduced to become more effective. You could reduce the time each year, you could reduce the number of members, you could reduce the cost, the staffs. I believe there were 5,700 bills in the last session, 343 became law. What did the other 94% cost us? It's an expensive operation, and every little item that every little congressman or legislator has goes into the hopper, and somebody has to take a look at it. Somebody has to write it. The gentleman who writes the bills or is in charge of that department last year pulled down a salary of $380,000. That's outrageous as well. So I'm all for knocking it down at least 20%.
Thank you. George?
I too would want to reduce the size of the legislature. Not quite sure what you consider an ideal number. I think we could cut it in half. More importantly, I would like to reduce the cost of the legislature. You know, constitutionally, we have to provide our legislators a salary. We don't have to give them per diem. I worked for companies all my life where I had to justify my expenses. I have to show receipts for my expenses. Nobody tells me, George, you get, X number of dollars a day, whether you spend it or not, and do what you want. There's two problems with not showing the receipts. Number one, it's accountability. Where's the money going? But more importantly, it shows you what they're up to. If I'm out having dinner with somebody and I want to write that off for the business, I have to list who I'm with and what we discussed. My constituents would be able to see that, and they'd know who I was meeting with and who I was talking to, and perhaps who's trying to influence my vote. So yeah, we should cut the legislature down, absolutely. But more importantly, let's look to accountability. Let's get rid of this per diem, and let's force them to justify every expense with a receipt over $25, just like I have to do in private industry.
Thank you. I think my lit talks about 20% reduction. When I moved over here, I thought that this county and state is one of the most heavily bureaucratic areas I've ever seen in my life. I do think you need to reduce the size. I think Senator Pippy had a pretty challenging plan several years ago that has some good, I think was worth revisiting. But it's not just talking about reducing the size of the legislature. There is some cultural things that I think you need to change as well. I appreciate something about per diems. My plan is to do away with undocumented expenses. I agree that you should be documented in everything else that you do. I believe that you should have term limits. I'm a believer in term limits. I'm also a believer in campaign finance reform. I believe that it is worth considering. How can we perhaps maybe even extend a year from 2 to 3 years in relation to House terms, 4 to 6 for Senate, and then cap those things in appropriate amount of terms. I'm open to debate. Might have been, I think, 12 was the last number I heard some people discussing. I think you're on the path to doing things there. The reality of it is the biggest problem that I have in how Harrisburg operates is I want to be sure that if you pass a law in Harrisburg, it applies to Harrisburg. And what I mean is I want pensions that if Harrisburg should have no better pensions than anybody else in the state system. They should have no better medical benefits than anybody else in the state system. It should be equal across the board. I don't believe there should be any differences between a state legislator at any level and the lowest state employee who's working in an office.
Thank you. Okay, next question goes to George Brown first. I'm going to put two together. As federal and state funding for public schools is reduced, how do you propose local school districts make up the difference for their budgets? But then the second part is, should we eliminate the current property tax system and instead fund schools with a statewide income tax?
Let's start with the second question first, and I would say absolutely not. Although the property tax, everybody in this room probably hates it equally, including me. The last thing we want to do is send our money to Harrisburg, have it filtered through a bunch of bureaucrats, only to be trickled back to our school district, minus the cost of administering that trickle. Again, local government is good government. If you want to try to control the cost of the schools locally, you have a much better chance of doing that by voting, for your local school board members than you do for the 203 legislators that you have to convince that Bethel Park or Mount Lebanon needs more money. So I certainly would not want to see a statewide system. If you want to do something about the property tax, I'm certainly open to that, and I think one of the things you can look at is something that's called a land value tax, where you don't tax the buildings, but you tax the land. The advantage to that is you don't have to go through this reassessment process where you get assessed more because you just put in an $80,000 kitchen than me, who has the $10,000 kitchen. It also is workable because you don't have to have people coming around looking at all these properties, taking up tens of thousands of man hours to do that. So it's not ideal by any means, but it is something to look at as a possible alternative to what we have today.
Okay,
I don't believe you're going to have real property tax reform without more assistance from the state. I believe that Pennsylvania is ranking about in the bottom third in relation to state funding for education. I believe it's on the wrong path. I believe if you compare where our neighbors are with it, you will see a better balance. And the way to, I believe, to do that is to have more state assistance as a way to break what is at sometimes overbearing on the local property owners, in particular seniors who are on fixed income and those in similar boats while they're struggling to find jobs. So I do think that there are some issues with that. I have some big concerns though with it. I do think there's some state issues for greater responsibility. I believe special education is something that is inadequately and imbalanced in relation to the state and funding throughout the, particularly even the local areas of 42nd. You could take a special education child in Bethel Park and take a special education child in Scott, and they have different realities of what is available to them in relation to the tough scenarios that local school districts are in. The reality of it is as the state has cut funding, as the state has taken away charter reimbursements, taken away pre-K initiatives, they have made it more difficult for local school districts. You've seen the jacking up of property taxes that have come up, and you'll see more unless you find a way to balance out the state involvement, and that, I believe, is going to mean more state assistance, not less, especially in relation to special education. Thank you.
When the federal stimulus funds came into the state of Pennsylvania a couple of years back, every superintendent in the state knew that there were conditions with those, there were costs for those, and that they would be gone in 2 years. They took them anyways. Many districts didn't, we did not. Now they want to say Governor Corbett reduced the education budget when all he did was the federal funds were gone. He didn't replace them. He could have, but it would have been a tax to do. My question in this is, there was an article in the paper a couple days ago that we receive a higher revenue from gaming than any other state in the country, including Nevada and New Jersey. We got 1.5 billion. Where is it at? We were told that the state would, that the gaming would help supply the state in the schools and reduce our taxes. The county in the west, or in the east rather, got 12.5 million of that gaming money a month ago, a week ago, whatever, for 37 projects. Had they taken that same amount of money and given it to the 11 school districts in that county, not one person would have had a dime of real estate tax. We need to readjust what we're looking at. It's not that we don't have the money. We don't have our priorities straight. A lot of that gaming money should be going back to the locals for the Homestead Act to increase the value of it to maybe $50,000 and so forth. So.
Okay. So I'll ask you a question again, and you'll go around and add two more. No.
Good. There's a lot more in that issue.
There is. All right, the next question goes to Dan Miller first. Discuss runaway pension costs. How do we bring public sector unions under control?
Obviously the state has taken a recent run in the last couple of years as ways to handle pension costs. There are some things that I think make sense to do. One of the things that drive up costs, and this is something that happened in Mount Lebanon, was spiking issues that would come up. I always kind of equated it almost to a steroid in sports, is that I think public people sometimes felt pressure almost that everybody else was spiking, why shouldn't that? And I don't mean that to be across the board, but we have issues with that. Spiking costs have a massive impact on public sector pensions. I am a believer in pensions. I want more people to have pensions. I believe that waiting for Social Security to give you a comfortable retirement is not enough. So I am a proponent of pensions. But I'm also against issues that artificially inflate pension costs. This was something that we had to deal in Mount Lebanon at the commission level, and I would support such measures that would help bring those issues down. That would, I think there are a variety of different ways to do that, and I think that bringing the unions to the table to be sure that they understand, working with them hand in hand to find an appropriate balance to it is something that can be done without it actually being big drag out fund.
Dan Remley?
I believe we need to address the pension issue immediately. A lot of people say there's not much that you can do with what's already there. It's protected by law. But certainly going forward, we need to evaluate the availability of 401 pension plans, defined contribution pension plans. We're not going to change it overnight. It's 1.5 times our state budget in the red. We need to address issues within the pension system and then work on going forward in the future by changing it. One of the issues is the overtime. Overtime calculations for 3 state police last year in their last year of employment were over $100,000 a year per each of those officers. They get their pension based on an average of the last 3 years, so add $33,000 to their base salary and give them their 90% pension for the rest of their life. That is not correct. It is not proper. There are a lot of issues with the pension systems that we need to address, but it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of chipping away. Unfortunately, if we don't address the pension systems, it's been calculated that within a couple of years, it will cost the taxpayers $2,500 for every student in the school districts every year. And that's going to be a massive amount of taxes. Right now, it eats your entire budget.
Okay. George?
Yeah, the current pension system is unsustainable. We currently have unfunded liabilities of $47 billion. There are only a little over 12 million people in Pennsylvania. So if you do the math, that's almost $4,000 for every man, woman, and child in Pennsylvania. It's just unsustainable. We can chip away. We can say anybody that comes in to the system now has to use a 401k plan. That's all well and good. That's not going to address the problem that exists already. How do we get into this? We got into this situation because, once again, you saw the unholy alliance of the unions and the Democrat and Republican politicians. It's the same circumstance that I described earlier, where the politicians fund the union benefits, the money then from them finds their way back into their pockets. And the Republicans and the Democrats will fight against each other and make you think, yeah, that one side's going to do something, but they're both getting money from the unions. Regardless of what the law is now and what contracts have been made, in private industry, companies go bankrupt and the pensioners lose their money entirely. We have to renegotiate. We have to put them into 401k plans, and we have to do it sooner, not later, or this thing is going to take down the entire state.
Okay, next question goes to Dan Remley first. Sorry. Many of the senior citizens and people with serious health issues in our communities depend upon Medicaid for health insurance assistance. Do you favor taking advantage of the broader program being offered to Pennsylvania by the federal government, or do you see it as something that Pennsylvania should leave on the table?
I favor taking the program for at least the first 3 years, and I'm not sure that you can do just that. My concern here is the exact same as it was in the school districts. The Fed gave money to the state gave it to the school districts. I don't trust the Fed, and they put caveats on it that created an unfunded mandate, the most expensive thing to school districts outside of pensions. If this program is put in, and I like the program for the first 3 years, that it creates jobs, it takes care of 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 people who are not on the insurance at this point. My concern is the taxpayer. And down the road, if that federal money is cut just as it was to the schools, everybody's going to sit here and say, well, the governor cut this again. No, the governor didn't. You know now, you know up front, just like every superintendent did in the school money from the stimulus. If you cut that money or reduce it, someone has to pay the bill. That someone is not only going to be the seniors that are on it at that point, it's going to be our children and our children's children.
George?
I disagree with the premise of the question. The question said, would I like to take advantage of the federal government's funds? The federal government is taking advantage of us by raising taxes, printing money at unsustainable rates, causing the value of our savings to drop in a hidden tax. And there is no way that the federal government can possibly run our health insurance and our medical system better than we can in the state. So absolutely, positively, I want nothing to do with Obamacare, whether it's a Republican plan or a Democrat plan. The feds don't belong in it. We don't want to take the money. We don't want to get on the hook. We don't want to let the federal government camel get its nose under our tent. Absolutely not.
Dan Miller?
I would take it. I think that it is an opportunity for massive healthcare coverage to a lot of people. And I think that it is a great opportunity for economic growth and jobs in the state of Pennsylvania. Listen, we can all, with every federal program, you can always ask the same thing. At what point does the federal government stop paying for something? There's always those questions that come up. And sure, there's always planning that needs to be done. But the reality of it is, I remember when we got health care, for my family, I remember the day we got, that was, there's a lot of young people and families that need that help. I don't agree with how the law was done. I would not have written it the same way. I think that it's mostly an exercise in poor legislative action and not something to be replicated. But given that we're running for a state position, not federal, given that nobody's asking me to go back and rewrite it, I would say that the opportunities for coverage and for jobs are too great for the state of Pennsylvania to ignore. And I would hope that we would continue to find ways to improve the system and doing so.
Okay, here's my problem. I got 3 more issues I want to cover, and we probably should be wrapping it up pretty soon. So can I cut the time down to 1 minute each and ask these 3 questions?
Depends on the issues.
Solving the state's problems in a minute and a half.
So let's give it a try. And George, you get to go first. Okay. What additional steps do you propose the state should take to reduce the number of gun shootings and deaths in Pennsylvania?
If you're asking Harrisburg to help reduce the shootings, in the Hill District of Pittsburgh, you're basically wasting your time. These are local issues that have local problems. We don't have rampant shootings in Bethel. We don't have rampant shootings in Mount Redmond. We have a high percentage of gun owners. I happen to be one. It's all about what goes on in these communities, and you're not going to solve it at the state level. There is no way to solve it at the state level. It's going to have to be solved locally. So again, I would disagree with the premise of the question. I just don't see how you're going to spend money out of Harrisburg to solve local crime issues in and around, for example, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia.
Okay. Dan Miller.
Thank you. Yeah, there are so many issues that relate to the localities, and I know one of the candidates who spoke earlier talked about families, talked about jobs in relation to giving people a stake and finding a life that they would be happy with, to be besides turning to unfortunate violent acts that come about. I was a public defender for several years, and I was proud to do that work. It was tough work. It was difficult, but I'm somebody who not only believes in the Second, but I believe in the Fourth, the Fifth, and the Eighth Amendments as well. And I believe that before the government does something to somebody's liberty, they're entitled to those rights. I do think there's a role for the state in this, and it's in background checks. And I do believe that what we're doing in background checks is not enough. I would look to expand what we are checking. I'd look to enhance issues in relation to mental health commitments and other disability issues. I think those need to be done.
Thank you, Dan.
I am a supporter of the Second Amendment as well, and I do not believe that law-abiding citizens should have their rights curtailed by additional laws or registrations or whatever. I believe that if we enforce the current laws, we'll be in a lot better shape. And in terms of going forward on those, I would recommend that we take away the plea bargain from the lawyers. If you commit a crime now with a weapon, gun or otherwise, if they plea bargain out the weapon charge, you're not going to jail. I would take away the plea bargaining ability in that case, and I would immediately install some mandatory penalties. If you commit a crime with a weapon, gun or otherwise, you're going to jail. But those who are law-abiding citizens, registrations we need to do, but we need to do more mental health registrations. Almost every one of the mass shootings recently has been a mental condition that was under treatment or should have been under treatment.
Thank you. Okay, next question, Dan Miller first. Payment for transportation in all forms, cars, trucks, bikes, rails, buses, light rail, is all funded by the public. Are you happy with the current allocation of state funds? What changes would you like to see?
You know, the governor, when he first got in, put together a blue ribbon, his term, commission to address aspects of transportation. There are massive problems facing the state, massive challenges. Unfortunately, the governor waited over a year to address any of the findings of his own blue ribbon commission, and that led to, I think, an inadequate proposal. Thankfully, there are some movements in the Senate. I know Senator Rafferty has put together a more challenging and more, I think, proper look at how to fund and how to address our transportation needs. I went to Catholic University in DC. I didn't have a car there. I took public transportation every day for 4 years. So I do consider it to be a main reason for why young people stay, what helps with job growth, what helps with people finding a livable scenario here. So I do think that we need to do better in that regard. I am a strong supporter, more in line with what Senator Rafferty is proposing than the governor.
Dan?
I certainly understand that we need a lot more funding in the transportation. There, however, are way too many concerns at this point to have a quick fix. I spoke with an engineer from Pitt, and he and his students designed a program that said, if you take away the wholesale tax, as Governor Corbett has suggested, over a period of time, triple the license plate tax on your car, which is only $36, and double the driver's license and hold it for every 2 years, you could pay for the whole problem. That's what they say. I think you're going to have more problems in the interim. I am not in favor of the wholesale tax, which is going to raise the gas tax on all the citizens when we're giving it to institutions that can't control their own dollars. They're fraught with fraud, with bad contracts, with money just being spent left and right, given away left and right. It's tax dollars, and they need to spend their money as if it was ours, because it is ours.
George?
Since I've came to the state in 1987, every politician, when he's trying to get elected, talks about crumbling roads and bridges. Over and over again, we hear the same thing, but nothing ever gets fixed. We keep being told that the bridges are becoming worse and the roads are becoming worse. Why would we want to raise taxes and throw more money at the problem when we're not being very effective in dealing with the problem already? It's not a money problem. We should start by getting rid of corruption like we have in the Turnpike, where we spent hundreds of millions of dollars for nothing. There was no concrete and no rebar poured with those hundreds of millions of dollars. It all went back into the pockets of politicians, of both parties, by the way. Let's start by privatizing the Turnpike. Let's use that as an experiment. Let's find out if private industry can run the highways more efficiently than the public can. And let's take those lessons and potentially use them to privatize the entire road and rail network in the state and get the state out of the business.
Thank you. Okay, next question goes on somebody else here, Dan Rimley. Yes. Dan Rimley. Yeah, I have too many notes here. I can't read my own handwriting here. Local communities are choosing to eliminate and pay for local police, shifting the burden to the state police. Is this fair? And what would you do about this?
Well, first off, I don't think the loss of local control is good. I think you need to keep the local people, the local police forces, and certainly those who pass it on to the state police, since there's been so many passed on to them, are going to find that their crime goes up, their gun laws are more in demand for the public, screaming that this is happening, that's happening, because they have no police control. How would I fix it? I really don't know at this point. I hate to admit that, but I haven't studied the issue to figure out a way to fix it. Maybe some could come from gaming laws, maybe some could come from the drilling companies. I know they passed out some of the monies to the drilling companies about 2-3 weeks ago. One of them said they got enough to buy 2 bags of salt. That was an entire county. We need a more equitable way of distributing the wealth from these valuable resources that we have in this state to assist the communities in need. Many cities are flat-footed, like Scranton.
Okay, George?
I mean, if you're running a local municipality or township, I think the last thing you want to do is count on the state police to do your policing for you, because that's not their job. And I would not be in favor of getting more money for the state to take over the roles. What we have to do is find out why those municipalities can't afford their own police forces and maybe even firemen, and do something about that. And the reason they can't afford it is the economic growth in this state is flat. We have the highest corporate income tax in the country, 9.99%. We need to encourage business to come here, because when business comes here, jobs come here. When jobs come here, the state doesn't have to pay people unemployment. Instead, they collect income taxes, and so do the local governments. There's more money going around everywhere when you have more business. So let's make the state a business-friendly state. Let's grow economically and grow our way out of these problems.
Dan?
It's not an issue of the state taking over things. It's an issue of localities approaching the state, just like Roslyn, just like Thornton. These are parts of the district that used to have their own police force. Consolidation is a part of the realities of several of these towns. I remember the fire department out here. There's last time I checked, 203 maybe in Allegheny County. Public safety services are very difficult. Bethel is faced with an issue right now on how to fund its fantastic fire service. This is not a new thing. This is not something that is just going to be a small blip. The cost of public safety is going to continue to go up. The difficulties in having volunteer forces is going to continue to be a problem. And consolidating amongst municipalities is something that can be done. I don't think it's a matter of the state telling the localities to do it. I think it's a matter of localities finding efficiencies, which is something I support in Mount Lebanon, to provide the services necessary for the town.
Okay, we now go to closing statements, and I'm going to start with Dan Remley, but I'm going to go that way, then Dan Miller, and then George Brown. Okay?
Well, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity to see me, and I've spent several months now going from door to door, meeting well over 6,000 homes personally. And I've listened to the concerns and the hopes of many of these people about our district and our Commonwealth. With your help, I plan to continue to listen and to address the concerns in a reasonable and responsible manner, and to build on those efforts for all of us. If we cut the size of the government, prioritize our spending, become more business friendly, we can provide a quality of education for our students that they deserve, and a quality of life for our seniors that they have earned. I want Pennsylvania not only to be a great place to grow up, but a great place to live, to work, and to spend our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Dan Miller.
Thank you, everyone, for attending and for participating in this discussion. It's been a long couple months here, but an enjoyable one. And one that fills me with hope for better times, and hope in the strength of the communities that we're in. I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to go out and talk to people. And it has reminded me why I look, as always, for ways to serve. There's a lot of needs that are in this state, in this 42nd district. And I'm not satisfied with the direction that Harrisburg is going in. And I'm tired of the partisan distractions. I'm not somebody who's looking to get into any sort of thing that doesn't affect jobs and education. If you're not dealing with one of those two things with it, I can tell you right now, it's not going to be on my priority list. That's the focus of what I'm looking to do. I believe that's what helps generate middle class, family-sustaining jobs. That's what helped my family. That's what brought me to have the opportunities that I have. In the fire department, you always split the ladder. All right. So when you go up and when you have good programs that work, you don't cut them. You support them, and you be sure that the person behind you can get up that ladder. And that's what I'm looking to do. I hope that in the coming days, still before this campaign is over, to meet more of you. And I thank you so much for the time.
George Brown.
I'd also like to thank the league and all the people that attended. And at the risk of insulting the voters, which is what you're never supposed to do, look around at all the empty chairs in this room. There aren't that many chairs in this room to begin with. And I think that shows you about something about voter apathy. And as long as we have voter apathy, nothing's going to change. People in this room obviously are paying attention and want to make a difference. But how many people out there are not? I think that's a sad commentary on the electorate in our district and all over the state for that matter, all over the country. I think if you continue to go down the same path and continue to elect the same Democrats and Republicans, you're going to get the same results. I would invite you to think outside the box. Pull the lever for a libertarian, somebody different, somebody that can go to Harrisburg, not beholden to any special interests. I don't get funding from the state Libertarian Committee the way the Democrats and Republicans get funding from their state committees. There's no special interests funding the Libertarians. I can go to Harrisburg and I can be independent. I can use my educational experience, my engineering experience. I can try to work with both sides and come up with good ideas to make major changes in this state, beginning with economic growth.